July 1st has been set as the deadline for the Israeli Knesset to vote on annexing settlements in the land of Judea. As the deadline approaches, intensity on both sides of the dispute is escalating dramatically. We will explain today what is going to happen according to the Bible and what the end result will be. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is one of those subjects I just cannot let go of. It's too important. We're dealing with prophecies given 2,500 years ago that you and I may see the fulfillment of in the next month, 2 months, 3 months. That's where we are right now. It's so important for us to realize that. That's the reason I'm talking about it so much right now. It deserves to be fully discussed and fully understood. Before we dive in today, let me just mention to you that Dave and Jana Robbins will be holding a conference in Louisiana this coming Friday and Saturday evening. It will be Gina, Louisiana, Friday night, May the 29th at 7 p.m. Dave will be speaking on Satan's end time plan revealed. Let me tell you, this lesson is really worth hearing. And then on Saturday night, May the 30th at 6 p.m., updating prophetic fulfillments. The two sessions will be totally different. It's worth your going to if you're within driving distance. I know a lot of times we'll have people drive from 3, 4, 5 hours away. Well, this conference will be worth that, so I encourage you to go. That's this coming Friday and Saturday night. Friday at 7 p.m., Saturday at 6 p.m. Pastor Curtis Thornton at the Shady Grove United Pentecostal Church. Here's the location: 1384 Highway 460, Gina, Louisiana. So I hope you can be there. If you're any place close, you will love it. It's going to be very, very exciting. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I want to talk to you today and see if we can give you a broader scope of what is happening right now. This particular article appeared. It's entitled PA, standing for Palestinian Authority, Recognition of Palestine Will Thwart Annexation. I've watched as Mahmoud Abbas has desperately flailed around to try to stop the Trump peace plan called the Deal of the Century, especially since President Trump made it public on January the 28th of this year. All of a sudden, we realize that the United States is going to approve of Israel annexing 30% of the West Bank, also known as Judea, Samaria. Once Israel does this, then it cannot be reversed, because the only way to reverse it would be to act at the UN Security Council, and that's not possible because the United States has veto power there. As a result, Mahmoud Abbas, the head of the Palestinians, is very desperate to head this off within the next 30 days. Now, we're talking about a deadline, and there are articles appearing every single day: Jerusalem Post, Israel National News, Israel Hayam, and many other publications. They're discussing it right now because, well, the cat will soon be out of the bag and it will not be reversible. Let me share some of this with you. Palestinian Authority Cabinet Leader Mohammed Shtayyeh on Wednesday called on countries in the European Union to hurry up and recognize a Palestinian state. Now think about this. What he's saying is, you got to do this before July the 1st because it will be too late. Speaking through Zoom with a number of members of the European Parliament, Steye explained that recognition of the state of Palestine is important to maintain the two-state solution and to fight the Israeli annexation plan. Now, I want to pause right there. It is not important to maintain the two-state solution because the Trump plan actually calls for a two-state solution. It just does not give the Palestinians as much territory as they are hoping to get. It gives them 70% of the West Bank as their own state instead of 100%, which is what they have contended that they must have. So that statement is a little misleading. The article goes on to say, we left the door open to any serious initiative that seeks to revive the peace process under multilateral international sponsorship led by the quartet, as the success of the peace process depends on the existence of a fair mediator, clear and agreed upon principles, a serious partner, and a set timetable. We'll tell you much more in a moment.
I have left a piece of my heart in Israel and her people. We would like to thank Endtime for doing such an awesome job with our Israel tour. We marvel at your team keeping the time schedule, keeping everyone comfortable, the wonderful driver, the brilliant guide, the entire tour program, good hotel choices, and stellar food. We had the privilege to rub shoulders with Pastor Baxter, listen to his current teachings, and had some interesting questions answered so eloquently. He is wonderful. Helene from Australia.
Experience the Holy Land in the most amazing way. Join Irvin and Judy Baxter for our upcoming Israel tour. For more information, go to endtime.com or call 1-800-ENDTIME. That's 1-800-363-8463.
We've seen Bible prophecy fulfilled like never before. From the halls of the United Nations to the Temple Mount in Jerusalem, End Time Ministries continues to reveal the Bible prophecy in the news headlines around the world every day. Whether it's through our broadcast or online at our Jerusalem Prophecy College, your gifts enable us to put vital materials in the hands of those who need it most. Because of you, we continue to replace fear with faith in the hearts of Christians around the world. We will continue to see prophecy come to pass at an even swifter pace. We need your support. Your donation of any amount enables us to continue to broadcast and be a voice in the ever-growing censored media. To become a partner or give a one-time gift, visit endtime.com or call 1-800-END-TIME right now. That's 800-363-8463. Go online now. Visit endtime.com.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, I want to make sure that we're clear on what we're talking about here. We are talking about the expansion of Israeli-held territory beyond what they held after the War of Independence in 1948-49. Israel has not officially expanded territory outside of the annexation of East Jerusalem as her capital. Other than that, Israel has not officially expanded territory, and it has not been internationally recognized until now. However, with the Trump peace plan in place, the Trump plan is hoping to rectify the settlements. 850,000 Jews live out there. Yet, most of the international community does not recognize that as part of Israel. How do you fix this travesty? Well, that's what the Trump peace plan, called the deal of the century, is attempting to do. Now, let's continue on to paint the picture of what's going on here. The Palestinian Authority is outraged over the coalition agreement between Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Defense Minister Benny Gantz, which stipulates that the government can apply sovereignty over Judea and Samaria this coming July. Now, I would remind you that Israel finally settled on a government as of May the 17th. This government is a coalition government between Netanyahu's Likud party and Benny Gantz's blue and white party. They made compromises. They came together. One of the things that Netanyahu insisted on and Benny Gantz gave onto is the annexation of the settlements that will be voted on around July the 1 in the Israeli Knesset. And according to all reports, the Knesset has a strong majority that will be willing to vote for this. When that happens, that part of the West Bank, the part of Judea Samaria, will officially belong to Israel, never to be returned, with the full backing of the United States of America and President Trump. The Palestinian Authority has also condemned the perceived U.S. support for the sovereignty move. The PA Justice Minister recently threatened the U.S. with lawsuits for supporting it. Earlier on Wednesday, it was reported that PA leaders are looking to form an international coalition to block the Israeli sovereignty bid. Palestinian Arab officials have been pressuring countries to officially recognize Palestine in a movement to bypass direct peace talks with Israel. Now, do you get it? Now, finally, Mahmoud Abbas has come up with an idea. He's saying, look, if I can get enough nations to recognize Palestine within 1967 borders and have them do that before July the 1st, of this year, 2020, if they can act first, then we've created a new reality, new facts on the ground. As of right now, we have no indication that Mahmoud Abbas has been successful in taking this step, because everybody that takes this step is flying straight in the face of the United States of America. Everybody in the world knows the U.S. has now formulated this peace plan, and part of that plan is the settlements where 850 Jews live, 850,000 Jews live. They will become a part of Israel. If they don't become a part of Israel, what do you do with them? Do you leave them out there in no man's land? Do they live inside of a Palestinian state? So it's very unlikely that the nations of the world are going to fly in the face of President Trump and the United States of America by recognizing Palestine as a nation within the borders that would be the 1967 borders. Actually, the borders created at the end of the War of Independence in 1948-49. So that's what we're dealing with here. Now, once Israel expands those borders, then the whole world reality has changed from what it was in 1949 to a new reality in 2020. So we're talking about over 70 years of history will now be shifted to cope with the new reality. Now, this next article I found so interesting. It's entitled, "Next Few Weeks Will Determine Whether Future Decades Will See Peace or Bloodshed." Wow, that's quite a title. The next few weeks, the next 4 weeks to be exact, will determine whether the next few decades will see peace or bloodshed. Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas has spared no effort to salvage the Israeli-Palestinian peace process. Chief Palestinian negotiator Saeb Erekat said Tuesday, adding he was confident that the Arab world would not allow Israel to execute its plan to apply sovereignty to large parts of Judea and Samaria and the Jordan Valley. Now, did you notice what he said, Mr. Arakat said? He's a central figure, probably the most powerful figure among the Palestinians outside of Mahmoud Abbas himself. And he is saying there's no doubt that our Arab brethren, the nations around us, will stand by us. However, he is in a delusion, as you are going to find out. Arakat further said that Ramallah, which is presently serving as Palestinian headquarters, will seek clarifications over reports saying that many of the moderate Arab states will not challenge the Israeli plan. So he's getting reports that many of the Arab states, such as Saudi Arabia, Jordan, United Arab Emirates, Egypt, those are the key players around the Palestinian territories, that they're not going to challenge the Israeli plan. So now Mr. Arakat, along with Mahmoud Abbas, is going to go out seeking clarification. Now, what normally happens is the Arab states tell them what they want to hear until it comes time to deliver, and then they tell the world community what they feel is in their nation's best interest. Now, listen as we go along. The next few weeks will determine whether the next decades will be ones of peace and coexistence or of violence and war, Arakat warned. Arab sources told Israel Hayam newspaper Tuesday that while Arab leaders were concerned that the unilateral annexation of areas in the West Bank the Palestinians seek for a future state would see region plunged into a violent conflict, behind the scenes, moderate Arab leaders are in no rush to prevent Israel from pursuing the territorial bid. Still, senior officials in the moderate Arab countries made it clear that despite the pan-Arab stance against the annexation plan, behind the scenes, the move is not being challenged as forcibly as the Palestinians might hope. What's that saying? Well, when all the Arabs come together with a meeting of the Arab League, they all fall into the line and nod their head and say, oh, yes, we're behind the Palestinians. However, when push comes to shove, in reality, they are quietly saying to the United States and to Israel, we're not going to stop what you're trying to do. Over the past few months, several Arab leaders have met with senior White House advisor Jared Kushner and U.S. Middle East envoy Avi Berkowitz, who are overseeing the implementation of the U.S. Middle East peace plan. Did you notice? They've been meeting quietly behind the scenes with Kushner and Berkowitz. Now, sources privy to these meetings said that the Arab leaders have, in essence, given the two American officials the go-ahead for the joint U.S.-Israel committee tasked with mapping the areas included in the annexation plan to continue its work despite publicly lambasting the plan. So what's it saying? Publicly, they're fighting against it. Quietly behind the scenes, wink, 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 they are approving this plan. A senior Jordanian official told Israel Hayam, that's the newspaper, that if Jordan suspends or cancels the peace agreement with Israel, it will undermine its position as custodian of the holy Islamic sites in Jerusalem. Jordan holds dear the ability to say, we oversee the Temple Mount. The king also prefers to see Israeli troops near Jordan's western border in the Jordan Valley, which is part of the annexation, over Palestinian forces or a multinational peacekeeping mission, he continued. Now, not only is Israel annexing the settlement areas, but they're also annexing the Jordan Valley, which would separate the new planned Palestinian state from the Jordan River, and just on the other side of the Jordan River is the country of Jordan itself. Well, Israeli troops have been there for the last 70 years, actually 53 years since the 67 war, so they're very used to the Israeli troops being there. They get along fine, and it's really not going to change anything. Now, Jordan's security forces have close ties with their Israeli counterparts, and with all due respect to Palestinian interests, the king cares more about Jordanian interest. He wants to maintain the kingdom's status in Jerusalem and his good relations with President Trump. Now, you see what's working here? The reason I want you to understand this is because we're 1 month away from all of this coming down. 30 days, ladies and gentlemen. The Jordanian officials' position is shared by senior security officials in Cairo, Egypt, in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, and in Abu Dhabi, the United Arab Emirates. These are all the main players surrounding the Palestinians. And all of these people are sharing Jordan's attitude toward this whole situation. So they're all for this annexation, even though the Palestinians are feeling forsaken. A senior diplomat, considered a confidant of Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, told Israel Hayam that Saudi Arabia, Egypt, and the United Arab Emirates are coordinated in their unofficial position on Israel's annexation plan. The official pan-Arab position opposes any move that allegedly infringes on Palestinian interests and the Palestinians' right to an independent state, he stressed. However, the Palestinians need to understand that the entire world, especially the Arab states, has undergone great changes since the Khartoum Conference. In case you don't remember what the Khartoum Conference, it met in 1967. The Arabs met together and issued their famous 3 no's. No recognition, no negotiation, no peace. That was the stance they took in 67. Here we are now, 53 years later, and everything has changed. The article says they got to realize the world has undergone great changes since the Khartoum Conference, and recognizing Israel's existence is a matter of fact. It's already done. It's a matter of fact, he explained, referring to the 1967 Arab League meeting in Sudan, that's where Khartoum is, where the pan-Arab group rule for a continued state of belligerency with Israel. With all due respect to the tens of thousands of Palestinians living in the Jordan Valley, Arab states such as Saudi Arabia, Egypt, and the United Arab Emirates and Jordan will not jeopardize their relationship with the Trump administration for the Palestinians. The Saudi official continued, "We believe that Trump will go on to serve a second term. The Palestinians failed to make the most of the Obama administration, which was sympathetic to their cause and dug in their heels. It is time for Abu Mazen," it's another name for Mahmoud Abbas, "and his advisors to wake up and realize that global and regional interests have changed. If they again miss an opportunity to establish an independent and sovereign state alongside Israel because of the annexation of the Jordan Valley and some of the settlements, they will be left with nothing." Did you hear it? This is a warning from the Arab states that have long supported the Palestinians, but they're telling them, look, this is the last train leaving town. You better get on it, because if you don't, you're going to end up being left with nothing. Now, that's the high drama that we are experiencing right now as we are moving towards July 1st. A senior Egyptian security official told Israel Hayam that modern Arab rulers led by Egyptian President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi, the Saudi Crown Prince, Jordan's King Abdullah, and Persian Gulf rulers see preventing Iran from achieving Shiite hegemony in the Middle East as more important than the Palestinian issue. The United States and Israel are very important players in the fight against Iran. No Arab leader will jeopardize his country's own interest in curbing Iranian expansion for the Palestinians. Well, I'm going to give you as much of the rest of this as I can. Netanyahu says we will move forward with annexation in July. This is the Jerusalem Post a couple of days ago. Israel must seize the opportunity to apply sovereignty to portions of the West Bank in July. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu told his Likud faction meeting last Monday as the settler leadership intensified its campaign against a U.S.-supported annexation process. For the first time since 1948, there is a historic opportunity to apply sovereignty in an agreed-upon fashion with the U.S. as a diplomatic sovereign act of the state of Israel in Judea and Samaria, he said. This is an opportunity that should not be missed, Netanyahu told Likud MKs. He has a goal date in July, and we won't change it. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's what's going on today, and we're 30 days away when all this will culminate right in front of our eyes. So you live in prophetic times, historic times. If you don't understand what it's all about, enroll in the Jerusalem Prophecy College, JerusalemProphecyCollege.com. Enroll, get to work.
Move Mountains with Irvin Baxter. This book by Irvin's grandson provides 30 days of devotion that will enhance your relationship with God and others. Authentic illustrations from early morning devotions at Endtime will help you find your purpose and eliminate fears. Commit to taking this 30-day journey and experience real life change. Get your book for only $14.99. Call 1-800-363-8463 or go to endtime.com/move.
I have left a piece of my heart in Israel and her people. We would like to thank Endtime for doing such an awesome job with our Israel tour. We marvel at your team keeping the time schedule, keeping everyone comfortable, the wonderful driver, the brilliant guide, the entire tour program, good hotel choices, and stellar food. We had the privilege to rub shoulders with Pastor Baxter, listen to his current teachings, and had some interesting questions answered so eloquently. He is wonderful. Helene from Australia.
Experience the Holy Land in the most amazing way. Join Irvin and Judy Baxter for our upcoming Israel tour. For more information, go to endtime.com or call 1-800-ENDTIME. That's 1-800-363-8463.
If your station only carries the first 30 minutes of End of the Age, go to endtime.com and click the watch button to continue today's broadcast. You can also finish up later by clicking the archive button.
When President Trump issued his deal of the century, made it public on January the 28th of 2020, he also laid forward a map. It was an approximate map of what the Palestinian state would look like and where the borders of the settlements would be. Well, this article states that Netanyahu is constantly working on this map with the Trump administration's representatives. Now, He's working on this map, and this map is due to be finished before July the 1st. So they are working on it right now. And Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, is working to make sure, and believe you me, as Prime Minister for over 10 years, he knows all the details, all the nuances, and they're working on exactly what this map is going to look like. The coalition agreement between Likud and Blue and White stipulates that July the 1st is the earliest date Netanyahu can bring settlement annexation to a vote. Now, why is this being driven forward? Is it likely to be put off till August or September? No, it's not, because that gives the Palestinians more time to convince nations to recognize Palestine as a state within 67 borders. Netanyahu wants to head that off. Plus, since there's an election in the United States, November the 3rd, Netanyahu wants to get this thing done, solidified and recognized by the world. Israeli Beitenu leader Avigdor Lieberman strongly supports the Trump plan and has told interlocutors on the right to pressure Netanyahu to stick to his summer deadline. If we don't do it now, it won't happen, he said. Now, Lieberman is an Israeli veteran. He's held almost every post in the Israeli government, so his word does carry considerable weight. Netanyahu's comments were likely a response to opposition to U.S. President Donald Trump's peace plan from the Israeli right, especially the settler leadership in the Yesha Council. Yesha Council Director General Yigal Damoni said the U.S. has rejected attempts by the settler leadership to modify Trump's annexation map, which allocates to Israel 30% of the West Bank. There are things about the map that the settlers don't like. You'll see a little bit further as we go along what some of those things are. Knesset Speaker Yariv Levin, one of the Israeli members of the mapping committee, denied Dilmoni's claim, saying the Americans have not conveyed any stance on the matter. We asked the Prime Minister's office if we could be part of the mapping process, Dilmoni said. The request was refused. But the Prime Minister's office said it would accept materials from Yesha. Yesha stands for Yehuda Samaria. You take the word Yehuda, put it together with Samaria, and you get the acronym Yesha. So the minister's office said it would accept materials from Yesha with regard to the plan, he said. Once the material was submitted, they were told the U.S. would not accept their input and that there would be no changes to the map, Dilmoni added. An American source with knowledge of the mapping committee would not confirm or deny the Yesha Council's claim. Now, the purpose of the mapping committee is to make the plan's map less conceptual and more factual or more official, the source said. But the Yesha Council said it wants to offer assistance precisely with those factual details. Yesha Council Chairman David Elayani said settlers have created 3 alternative sovereignty maps that correct the problems with the Trump map. Those maps offer a sovereignty blueprint for territory comprising 32.5%, 35%, or 38.5% of the West Bank. The Yesha Council has since intensified its campaign against the map. We're seeing articles about this every day in Jerusalem Post, Israel National News. They have intensified its campaign against the map, meeting with as many Knesset members and ministers as possible to sway them to support sovereignty in Area C, but not under Trump's terms. Among the hidden misconceptions in the Trump map is the extent of the territory, which El Hayani said is only 25%, not 30% as referenced in the Trump plan. The U.S. fooled us because 5% of that territory includes the waters of the Dead Sea, he said. What do I need the Dead Sea waters for? I can't put a road or a settlement there. Why include it? In speaking with some MKs and ministers, El Hayani has said the Trump map endangers the security of the state of Israel and its citizens. Let's pause. Notice what he's saying. The way we read this map, it's going to leave some of Israel and its citizens in danger. Well, ladies and gentlemen, he is absolutely right. If you'll open your Bible to Matthew chapter 24, verse 15 through 21, Jesus 2,000 years ago prophesied about what will ultimately happen as a result of the new boundaries that's being drawn up this month by this mapping committee. 2,000 years ago, Jesus prophesied and said, halfway through the final 7-year period, which will be triggered by this peace agreement, halfway through this seven-year period, at the 3.5-year mark, you're going to see an event called the abomination of desolation. And Jesus said, when you therefore shall see the abomination of desolation, spoken of by Daniel the prophet, stand in the holy place, whoso reads, let him understand. Then, listen carefully, then let those which be in Judea flee. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about the settlers that will be in Judea. Let them flee, for then will be great tribulation such as never been before, no, nor ever again shall be. So all these settlements they're worried about, and the fact that they are going to be in too dangerous of a position, Jesus foresaw this 2,000 years ago and prophesied about it, giving warning at that time. Now that's the reason we as Christians need to play such a pivotal role, and we're planning on it. Endtime Ministries has already got the plans laid. 6 months before this prophecy of Jesus comes to pass, we want to take 1,000 people to Israel and go out and knock on every one of those settler doors and let them know things are getting ready to break loose out here. And you need to prepare yourself right now, because Jesus said that it will be a time of horrible persecution. And he specifically referred, let those which be in Judea flee for your life. He said, if you're on the housetop, don't even come down to get your clothes out of your bedroom. If you're out in the field working, don't go back to get your billfold. Hit the ground running, because then will be great tribulation, such as never been before, nor ever again shall be. If you want to check this out, turn to Matthew 24, verse 15 through 21. It's very clear. You know, there were no Jews in Judea as of 1967. Jordan had driven them all out. But between 67 and now, 850,000 Jews live in Judea. Jesus foresaw it all 2,000 years ago when he gave this famous prophecy. Now, at issue in particular is the settlers' concern that the map creates a burdensome traffic pattern that blocks them from major urban centers. They also are concerned that there are hidden details in the plan that would create de facto building freezes and lead to the destruction of at least 15 settlements. Do you notice what they're afraid of here? They're afraid of what Jesus prophesied 2,000 years ago. Do they know Jesus prophesied it 2,000 years ago? No, they don't. But he knew what the situation was going to be in the times just ahead of us right now. Under the Trump plan, those settlements would be transformed into enclaves within a future Palestinian state with only one exit patterned. Now, if you've got one exit, they won't even let you build a home that way. They don't want you to have an upstairs with only one exit, because if the fire starts and blocks the exit, you're trapped. Well, that's what they're concerned about here. They're concerned about the fact that these settlements, many of them are only going to have one road back to Israeli-controlled territory. So these Palestinian, these Jewish settlements surrounded by the Palestinian state will only have one exit and no room to expand the community's boundaries. The Yeshua Council has also opposed the portion of the plan that calls for a Palestinian state. But its focus at the moment has been the map. But they don't want a Palestinian state either because they believe it will be a terrorist state right in the middle of Israel. Not all settler leaders agree with the Yeshua Council. An opposition movement in favor of the Trump plan has formed, spearheaded by Thwart Council head Oded Ravivi, who was the former Yeshua foreign envoy. Thwart is among the locations that would not be harmed by the Trump map. Ravivi has argued that Israel should accept the Trump plan in the same way its pre-state leadership accepted the 1947 UN partition plan, even though it did not like all the details. The current U.S. government is the most friendly administration to Israel that we've ever witnessed, he said. The evidence for this is that they have moved the American embassy to Jerusalem. They have counseled agreements with Iran. They have recognized the rights of Jews in Judea and Samaria, and they have recognized Israeli sovereignty in the Golan Heights. So that's what the argument is all about. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I've got one more thing I want to bring to you, but I don't want to start it until after our break. Let me mention two things to you. First of all, if you have not yet enrolled in the Jerusalem Prophecy College, I know some of you are thinking, he keeps mentioning that. I feel guilty. I haven't done it. I've been meaning to do it, but I've been busy. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the only way to stop procrastination is to stop. That means start now. 50% of getting a job done is starting. So today, go to JerusalemProphecyCollege.com. Register, enroll in your first course. We believe when you enroll that you won't be able to stop. You won't want to stop because it will pull you through. I get the comments all the time. I don't know why I waited so long. I'm enjoying it so much. So go to JerusalemProphecyCollege.com, register and enroll. At the same time, if you have not yet taken advantage of our free offer of unlimited access to our website for the next 2 weeks, do that right now. Here's what you do. Go to watch.endtime.com. Watch.endtime.com. The next 2 weeks, total access free. Then if you want to continue, you'll have that opportunity.
Does the book of Revelation frighten you? Do its symbols confuse you? For centuries, the book of Revelation has been misunderstood and misinterpreted. In Revelation, the unveiling of Jesus Christ, Volume 1, Irvin Baxter unlocks the mystery of the book of Revelation with in-depth analysis and commentary like you've never heard before. This 10-part definitive DVD series and 268-page comprehensive commentary book covers the first 12 chapters of the book of Revelation, featuring on-location photography, classic artwork, and symbolic illustrations. You'll walk away with complete understanding and peace about the events happening during the final years on Earth. These comprehensive study tools, available for $299, will deepen your biblical understanding as you dig into the original intent of the book, answering the mysterious prophecies and symbols of the book of Revelation. Don't miss this special offer. Call now, 1-800-END-TIME, or go to endtime.com to order. Call or go online now to get this comprehensive Bible study.
When I saw this article, my heart sort of stopped. It comes from Israel National News. It's entitled, President Trump, Please Don't Ask Us to Anger God. It's written by a man by the name of Yonatan Bihar. Here's what he said. Dear President Trump, Shalom from the Holy Land of Israel, the land that God, creator of the heavens and the earth, gave to the Jewish nation as an eternal gift. President Trump, I have a question for you. Would you ask a Jew to eat a ham sandwich? I didn't think so. Why then are you asking Israel to stop building the land of Israel for 4 years in your peace plan called the Deal of the Century? President Trump, God commanded the Jewish nation to build and settle all of the land of Israel that he promised our forefathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and us. Our wise and holy sages taught us that the commandment to build and settle the land of Israel is equal in weight to all of the 613 commandments in God's Torah, which is another word for God's Bible, which he gave us on Mount Sinai. So he said the commandment to occupy the land, to build the land, that one commandment is equal to all 613 commandments put together. The letter goes on to say, President Trump, one of those 613 commandments is not to eat a ham sandwich. If you would never ask a Jew to eat a ham sandwich, as I'm sure you wouldn't, which is only one commandment out of the 613, how then can you ask the entire Jewish nation to transgress the commandment to build and settle the land of Israel, which is equal in weight to all the 613 commandments? President Trump, should you rightfully ask, well, what about the Arabs living in Israel? What do we do about them? I say, please don't worry. The Jewish nation are a kind and gracious people and always have been to anyone who acts kindly and graciously towards us. It's in our DNA, actually. We are commanded by God to act kindly and compassionately towards the foreigners living in our land. It's one of the 613 commandments. We only have a problem with the bad hombres among us who wish to kill us and destroy our country. President Trump, you and your administration have done a lot to aid and assist us in our goal of building and settling the Holy Land, and we will always be thankful for that. As a builder yourself, you certainly understand the importance of building and growing. And as a man of faith, who has said your favorite book is the Bible, I'm sure you understand Israel's obligation to fulfill the Word of God and His prophets. President Trump, please do not ask us to stop building anywhere in our country for any amount of time, thus requiring us to transgress God's most important commandment to the Jewish nation, to build and settle the land of Israel. With blessings from the Holy Land, Yonatan, Bihar. When I read that letter, it was so impactful to take a complex subject and to boil it down to a ham sandwich. To me, put everything in words that could very easily be understood even by the busy President of the United States. I can't guarantee that President Trump saw that letter, but if he did, I would think it would have impact upon him. So, ladies and gentlemen, here we are in the 30-day countdown. Well, what is today? The 28th of May. So perhaps we have 32 or 33 days until the July the 1st deadline, when Prime Minister Netanyahu has promised we will annex the settlements as soon as possible, and as soon as possible is around July the 1st. So that's where we are right now. Now, what will happen? Will Israel annexing the settlements force the Palestinians to go ahead and grab their Palestinian state, what they can? The area of Judea that Trump has already lined out and said, you can have this. You can also have your capital in East Jerusalem. Will this power play on the part of President Trump force the Palestinians to act? If we get a deal in Israel between the Palestinians and the Israelis, according to the prophecy, that event will trigger the final 7 years to the return of Jesus to this earth. Now, you heard me right. The physical second coming of Jesus Christ that is promised all through Scripture. And furthermore, that same time will be accompanied with the Battle of Armageddon. You and I, ladies and gentlemen, are in for quite a ride. Well, I haven't taken a lot of time for calls today, but I do have time for a couple. So why don't we go there right now? Let's go to Johnny calling from New York. Hello, Johnny.
Oh, yes, hello. I'd like to know I have two questions. The first one is I'd like to know what is the fourth beast? Speaking of Daniel, I mean, what nation is that in today's time?
Now, are you talking about the fourth beast in Daniel 7, the 10-horn beast?
Yes, the 10-horn beast.
Yeah, well, that's going to be a coalition of 10 kings. It says right there in that chapter, these 10 horns are 10 kings, and they will form a coalition together. And then one king will come up among the 10, uprooting 3. And that horn will become the world government leader in the end time, called the Antichrist. Now, the 10-nation alliance must come out of Europe, will come out of the Holy Roman Empire. And so the Antichrist will come out of the Holy Roman Empire.
Well, one question. Doesn't it also say that the fourth beast is stronger than all his predecessors, or am I mistaken? Is that said about the fourth beast, that the fourth beast is the one that rises up and is stronger than all of his predecessors? Yes, and he will be. He will end up dominating the entire world all during the Great Tribulation period, the 3.5 years defined as the Great Tribulation. The Bible also says he will make war against the saints and prevail against them until the Ancient of Days comes. So you're absolutely right, Johnny. That is what's going to happen. Okay, Dave, I have another question. Let's say, suppose this peace agreement is made, let's say around the end of this, by June or July, like you were saying a couple of minutes ago. But what are the times in between? Is it like the 7 years, let's say the 7 years start in 2020, is it like we have to wait all the way to 2027 to witness Armageddon, or are there going to be things that is it going to be things in between that we could say are supposed to happen, is the only confirmation that this peace agreement is real, is it only at the end, or is it things like in between the 7 years that
I understand it, Johnny, and it's a good question. There will be things in between. Once this peace agreement is signed, during the first 3.5 years, well, first of all, the Temple Mount will be placed under a sharing arrangement as a result of this peace agreement, and President Trump's peace plan provides for that. Also, during the first 3.5 years, the Jewish temple will be rebuilt on the Temple Mount, and they will rebuild it without disturbing the Dome of the Rock or the Al-Aqsa Mosque. So you're going to watch that as soon as the final 7 years begins. Within probably a year or two, you will see the building of a Jewish temple on the Temple Mount. Then, once the temple is completed, they will start animal sacrifices as they did in Old Testament times, because they still don't believe Jesus is the Messiah. Therefore, they believe they have to keep the Old Testament sacrifices just like happened under the law. So those are some of the things that are going to happen. In addition to that, then the Antichrist will be made manifest. His religious partner, the false prophet, will work with him. The Bible says the false prophet will even pull down fire from heaven in the sight of men. At the same time, God will send his 2 witnesses, and they will begin to preach around the world and in the streets of Jerusalem. And during that final 3.5 years, we're going to have a great revival, even while most of the world is following the Antichrist and the false prophet into horrible darkness and apostasy. There's going to be a counter movement bringing great revival during the final 3.5 years. And then finally culminating, well, one more thing I should mention, the Antichrist, in an attempt to force everyone to worship him, will then incorporate the mark of the beast, causing everyone to have a mark or a number without which they cannot buy or sell. And that will happen during the final 3.5 years. All of that will culminate with the Battle of Armageddon. So, Johnny, you're not going to be able to sit around twiddling your thumbs. It's going to be absolutely jam-packed with events.
Right, and I also like to say, right, the mark of the beast system, I believe, is not complete. Like, I don't think what we're seeing now with Bill Gates ID 2020, I don't think that's the mark of the beast, but I think that's what's going to be used in the future. I don't think that particularly, well, I don't really know, because
Johnny, let me cut you off because I've spent a lot of time with you, and I got one more caller I need to sneak in here, but you're right. Let's go now to Texas. Delisa is calling. Hello, Delisa. Quickly give me your question.
Yes. Good afternoon, Brother Baxter. What is Putin suggesting his role be in the peace agreement between Israel and the Palestinians?
Because the Palestinians do not want Trump and America to be the sole arbiter in peace negotiations, they have suggested that the quartet comes in. The quartet is the United States, the United Nations, the European Union, and Russia. That would put Putin as one of the major players in this whole thing. He has already volunteered to house the peace agreement in Moscow. But nevertheless, Putin is going to play a role when this peace agreement comes together, apparently. So that's the role that he is playing. And it could very well happen between now and September, because September is when the United Nations comes together. If this annexation happens in July, which it appears to be, then between July and September will be very critical time when the Palestinians will be trying to establish their Palestinian state. And it could be that the quartet would come together and would affirm that the Palestinians should have their Palestinian state with East Jerusalem as its capital. So we're just going to have to watch and see how it all unfolds. It's going to be very interesting. Well, ladies and gentlemen, sorry, we're totally out of time. All this is so incredibly interesting to me. Don't forget Dave's Prophecy Conference in Geno, Louisiana. Make sure you make it out there. God bless you all. We'll see you right back here tomorrow.
This has been End of the Age, brought to you by the faithful partners of Endtime Ministries. If you're not currently a partner with Endtime Ministries, or if you would like more information, we invite you to call us at 1-800-ENDTIME. That's 1-800-363-8463, or visit us online at endtime.com.
Thank you for watching. If you liked this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel and